From America's National Park of Speed to the Great Lakes State, the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship rolls on for its second week of the 2021 Season 1 campaign. Week number 1 was a roller coaster where Brandon Traynor and Adam Blocker duked it out in Elkhart Lake. But ultimately, a rare mistake on fuel strategy from the defending champion left the king of the bricks to take victory in Wisconsin. We roll things forward though to round 2 in Michigan, where the speeds are bound to be high, the tempers are sure to be on edge, and we're about to see some incredible racing once more here live on RaceSpotTV. Delighted to have your company wherever you are around the world. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined as always by my Powerslide Motorsports teammate Andrew Kinsella, and you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing to follow your favorite team and drivers powered by our partners at ATVO over the course of what is bound to be an exciting evening. And Andrew, what a season we have in store for us, and week 1 set the tone right from the start. Blocker and Traynor, we know how strong they were, but Brandon Traynor in years past maybe has been thought of more as an oval specialist. He put those thoughts to bed last week with a really strong drive, and while yes, he was handed the victory with that mistake from Adam Blocker, we should be fair and give him his due in what was a really strong performance from him on the road courses.
An extremely strong performance from Brandon Traynor last time out at Road America. As you say, Arjuna, we definitely have to give him his due. He has stepped up his road course game big time this season. The duel that we saw between Adam Blocker and Brandon Traynor at the front of the field, not just for a few laps, but multiple laps on end there, side by side through turns 5, 6, 7, and almost into turn 8 there. Spectacular racing between the two of them, and I can't wait to see what both of those drivers do on the high banks here at Michigan. And they're joined by some returning favorites of the IndyCar series, as I5G have come out in force for this race here tonight.
They saw Powerslide finishing 2nd through 5th just 7 days ago, and with Christmas holidays well and truly starting to be in effect for some of our younger drivers, we see them return to a Monday night. Here's a look at the schedule. 100 laps on the board here around the 2 miles of the Michigan International Speedway, our first oval of the year. Next week we'll go to Belgium, to Spa-Francorchamps. What a track that is, and what a show we will have in store for you right after Christmas. Hope you can join us on December the 27th. After one round, here's how the championship lines up. It's already a bit of an advantage for Brandon Traynor over defending champion and always title hopeful Adam Blocker, who's going to have to now try and bounce back here today. And we've got a great strength of field. We talked about the returning drivers, but what a split this is. I mean, you look at some of these names, Andrew, and you think this could be a serious IndyCar league no matter where you go around the world.
Absolutely. This is an incredibly strong field that we have here tonight, Arjuna. We've got the likes of Joe Branch, one of the most accomplished drivers in the IndyCar series. He's car number 17 here, just gives you a little indication of just how strong this is. Marco Brazil, who has frequently worn the number 1 plate here, he is car number 12. This is an incredibly strong field here tonight, and these guys should put on a treat. Guys and gals, I should say, as we do also have Alexis Newsom coming in and making her Monday night debut for this season as well.
That's your Lionheart Speedway Series champion. Quick look at this track, 2 miles in length, 18 degrees of banking. It is sure to put on a show, and the qualifying lap record in an open wheel car is just over 30 seconds. An average speed of 235 it makes no difference, 235 miles an hour, so it is a high-speed track. And, well, we are ready for the second time this season to go trackside to take a look at our starting grid for round 2 of this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship, live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. And once more, Brandon Traynor puts it on pole, and he is joined by the entirety, in effect, of Team I5G on the front 2 rows. Kristen Merritt, Brendan Lichtenberg, and Jacob Oster help I5G lock out 1 through 4, but Adam Blocker is joined by his new teammate Alexander Van der Sat alongside one another, 5th and 6th positions. Robert Malechka III alongside Alexis Newsom, factory-back teammates in the Lionheart Speedway Series. Marco Brazil, always a quick qualifier. He's back in 9th. He'll be alongside former series champion Adam Crane on the edge of the top 10. The Steely Rocket Machine will be back in 11th position. He'll be alongside the Andreas Eigen. Early morning for Ike back there, with Jesper Orman and AJ Musselman row number 7. Joe Branch and Andrew Marquez share row number 8, while Matt Hollabaugh and Brian Spott about a quarter of a second back from your pace setters, with final car setting a lap time not necessarily representative of his pace. Andrew Wood, with Jason Brophy returning to a Monday. He'll be at the tail end of the field, along with Christian Maccarelli. So 21 cars will be lined up and ready to go for 100 laps of racing. And Andrew, we saw an incredible Lionheart IndyCar Series race here, the second of the Triple Crowns, where Adam Blocker stole a victory at the line from Philip Kraus. Here today, not sure how things are going to go. One thing that I've heard from a lot of the drivers is that there's not as much grip as maybe they had thought on the bottom line, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to be able to hold that bottom. We'll see different lines being taken over the course of the race, and adapting with your open setup is going to be crucial, because you can see there it's relatively warm in terms of the track temperature, and there's lots of gusts of wind as well.
Yeah, first of all, as you say, that bottom lane, not only does it have a little bit less grip, but it's also very bumpy down there. That first seam on the track has been catching a number of drivers out, including last week in the fixed series as well. So that's definitely something to look for. But the weather here today, as you say, very windy and also very warm out there. So that's going to make a difference, especially on the tire wear as these runs goes on. Obviously, we have full fuel here, 100% fuel. So it's going to be a long fuel run for most of these drivers unless there's some caution laps. So I think that tire wear especially is going to play a factor as we get on into this race.
And one thing that we should quickly note is, despite the fact that it's I5G 1 through 4, this is the track where, because it's speedway racing and it's very much likely going to be pack racing, working within your team is not as easy as it sounds, maybe compared to some of the other ovals that we'll go to over the course of the season.
Absolutely, and keep in mind that that gap between I5G and Power Side is not very high at all. We're looking at half a tenth of a second between Brandon Trano and Adam Blocker was all that was in it in qualifying. So there might be a small advantage for I5G, at least in qualifying, but I don't think that that's going to extend very far into this race.
Well, we are ready to go 100 laps, round 2 of this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Wherever you are around the world, delighted that you're joining us here live on RaceSpotTV for what is sure to be an exciting race with the biggest, the best names in our iRacing IndyCar community. Pace car is down to pit road, Brandon Trano in control of the field, and we are racing at the Michigan International Speedway. Good clean start, a couple of side-by-side moves. Christopher Merritt already looking to the inside of the king of the bricks as he tries to get first position away. Meanwhile, Adam Blocker trying to get in on the fun as he'll slide to the inside of Brendan Lichtenberg to work himself up into fourth position. Almost 3 abreast out of turn number 4, but across the line to complete lap number 1. Christopher Demerit leads the way from Brandon Trano, Jacob Oster, Adam Blocker, and Brendan Lichtenberg. The question I have for you, Andrew, is how important is that swap draft going to be at the front of the field? Look at Adam Blocker, though, using the inside up to second.
I think if it was going to be important, I think that Adam Blocker has already proven that he's going to do what it takes to make sure that that swap draft doesn't happen between the I5G teammates. Adam Blocker already going down to the inside through 3 and 4. He is going to take the lead of the race coming out of turn 4 and towards the start-finish line to complete lap 2 here, Arjuna.
Alexander Van der Sant wants to try and follow, but he's being bogged down at least for now. Demerit trying to cut off the run from Van der Sant, feed him a little bit of dirty air as Van der Sant will wash up the track. Brandon Lichtenberg being cycled back now in 7th, will come under fire from the Canadian Adam Crane, who's on the outside of turn 2, but loses that momentum at least for the time being. Here comes Blocker, here comes Van der Sant as well to the inside of the green and gold of Jacob Oster. He'll slide up the track, will get out of the throttle, might open the door for Robert Malechka III to come on through, but at least for now the car's third on back, having to think about single file activity. Well, out front, top 2 swapping around. Here comes Jacob Oster to the inside.
Jacob Oster trying to displace Adam Blocker out from there, but Adam Blocker's teammate Alex Van der Sant very strong on the outside as well. You can see just how much that draft impacts them as Adam Blocker goes basically from third on the exit of turn 2 all the way into first place by the time they enter into turn 3. Now he's also got his teammate Alex Van de Sant. It looks like these power slide guys, at least early on in this race, they're really, really strong in this draft.
And this is where the setup will come into play, how you've trimmed out your car. Obviously, a lot of these guys will have dialed out as much of the downforce as possible to make sure they're fast in a straight line. But that's where having a good chassis underneath you, Andrew, becomes crucial.
Absolutely. Mechanical grip is so important, especially as the run goes on. Having that chassis and not necessarily relying too hard on that mechanical grip, that's going to be so important to preserving these tires and to maintaining your speed as the run goes on.
Joe Branch and AJ Musselman behind Christian Steele and Marco Brazil. Single file at the front, but not as considerate further back, as it's almost 2 wide, 3 deep as they work them way through the first couple of corners on this track. Branch to the inside, doesn't have the run behind him. I think Alexis Newsom has managed to just about hold off Andrew Wood for now, but really starting to run that high line, which we'll see how it develops over the course of the race. Will be a long 100-lap slog as Matt Holloway will demote Andrew Wood one further position. Out front still, almost 3 abreast as they dive in towards turn number 1. I love this, Andrew, the fact that you can run these different lines. The seams are there, but not as dangerous as maybe you'd see at somewhere like Auto Club.
Yeah, one of the nice things about tracks like Michigan and Auto Club is that they do have this multi-groove racing, and not just multi-groove where you're going around side by side, but multi-groove in that you can really do a lot of different things with your car. You can start up high in the corner and go and sweep down. You can stay high, you can start low and then sweep high by the exit. There's so many ways around this track, and all of them are fast, but the question is who's going to be able to figure out the fastest way around when it matters at the end of this race.
And I in a race like this, I always use the term downloading the data, figuring out what works and putting yourself coming to the white flag in the right position to make the move. That's what these sort of races are all about. Staying out of trouble and being there at the end and knowing what you have to do. Not as easy as it sounds, of course, Andrew, but that's kind of how you have to look at a race like this.
Absolutely. You're always looking at what your competition is doing, and you can even see right now the power slide trio of Blocker, Van de Sant, and Malechka. They've sort of slotted in behind Treno and Oster right now in those i5G's cars. They're letting them pull them around the track, but they're also studying them. They're seeing where they're good, where they're not so good, and potentially where they can make a pass later on in this race.
Christian Steele trying to slide down the inside line. He's got his teammate for company there. Maybe he can help him out, but there comes the feed of the draft initially from the Hyperstar to his teammate. Opened the door very slightly for Adam Crane to pop to the outside line, and Steele chops the nose off on Marco Brazil. That was a close moment there. Joe Branch will try and follow them through. Join the party, join the fun. 21 Indy cars separated by 3 seconds. Oh, as I say that, first car's had an issue. It's down low, and because of that, we'll stay green. That's Brian Spots in the 21, and that's significant damage to his Delara IR18.
Yeah, unfortunate incident for Brian Spots here. It's just one of those things that can happen coming out of turn 2. The car just gets a little bit loose. There's a big transition downhill on the exit of turn 2, and the car just, it's so easy to lose the rear end there. And when you lose it, it's almost impossible to recover from it. Brian, unfortunately, you can see he just gets loose, tries to counter steer, but by the time he puts in enough lock and realizes just how sideways he is, he's already on a one-way ticket to that inside wall there.
There's a song there if you really wanted to go down the rabbit hole with that one. That's the bump. We've seen similar incidents at somewhere like Texas, for example, off of turn 2, where often it's just the weight jacker that comes into play because, of course, these drivers have in-car tools, front and rear anti-roll bars, the weight jacker as well that moves weight across of the axis of the car as well. It's not just the open setup, but that in-race adjustability that these drivers really have to be on top of. As look at this, Marco Brazil to the inside of Brendan Lichtenberg, doesn't get the run. Christian Steele's been shuffled back a couple of positions to the edge of the top 10. It's getting increasingly racy here, Andrew, not necessarily what you expect, given that these tires are starting to burn off.
it's racy, but these guys are giving a lot of respect as well, which is really nice to see. We haven't had too many really close calls. Obviously, we did have that one spin down, but that was a single car incident. All of these drivers really seem to be doing a good job of giving each other a lot of room. There have been a couple close calls. Christian Steele might have chopped the nose off of someone, but overall, really, really clean driving so far.
And while Steele and Marco Brazil are side by side, Matt Hollabo and Joe Branch behind them also duking it out, as you can see just at the edge of the frame there. So it's good, hard, close racing. But across the field so far, been pretty fair. For those who remember, about 6 months ago, the last time the iRacing IndyCar Open Series came here to the Great Lakes State, we saw a last lap shootout, which ended in disaster for many cars. For Adam Crane, ended in victory on his route to the 2021 Season 3 Championship. Out front, i5G for the time being at least control the top 2 positions. Jacob Oster has the lead from Brandon Treno. Alexander Van der Sant, Adam Blocker run 3rd and 4th in the road. Christopher Demerit, Robert Malechka, Brendan Lichtenberg through 7th. So i5G and Powerslide have a lock on the top 7 positions, at least for the time being. And there's a long way to go in this race, and we're only just getting to the halfway marker of the stint so far. We're not even there yet, Andrew.
Yeah, and we're already starting to see the cars string out just a little bit, Arjuna. The tires are just starting to go away now. You can really see even the lead cars of the i5G duo. You can really see, especially on corner exit, the cars are starting to drift wider and wider. And further back in the field, the cars are getting a little bit more single file. But one thing that I am noticing is that one team that is able to run sort of high or low right now is the Powerslide Motorsports trio. The other drivers, they're sort of trying to have to take what the car in front of them is giving them in terms of clean air, but right now it looks like Powerslide might have a setup that can last just a little bit longer than some of these other drivers can.
Stop being so biased, Andrew. We're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, it is great, though, no matter our bias, to see that the likes of Oster, Demerit, Brendan Lichtenberg, and Christian Steele have all returned, because this is what we love about the Monday night, is that for years now, this has been the race. The first one of a new iRacing week is the big one in this iRacing IndyCar Open Series. It's where the most points get divvied out. It's where the drivers show up and are ready for, and that adds an extra complexion to this sort of a race, Andrew. The fact that it's the first one of the week means you have to have your preparation, and you're talking about, where the cars are comfortable. That's where the setup preparation also comes into effect. It's almost like a league within an iRacing official series. It really ratchets up the stakes and ratchets up the pressure just that little bit more.
Absolutely. If you don't think that these drivers are putting in at least 5 or 10 hours worth of practice before one of these races, most of these teams, they'll be putting in at least that before even setting foot on the track this week. So it's a lot of preparation that these drivers have, especially in this top split environment where every point and every position matters over the course of a 12-race season. It's really special to see drivers of this caliber and teams of this caliber doing this, and they're putting on a great show so far, I think.
Looks like more trouble for the 21 car of Brian Spots. He's had another issue and has had to tow back to pit lane, and in fact has retired from the race. So he's headed back to the garage area, and that's going to be day done, at least for the Florida native Brian Spots. In terms of drivers making some headway in the early stages of this race, Joe Branch is up 5 from where he started. Andrew Wood, really no qualifying lap of note for him. He was almost 7/10 up the pace, but he's up 7, almost in towards the top 10. Cars that have slid their way backwards. Lichtenberg has lost 4. Alexis Newsom has lost 6. Andreas Ike, somewhat surprisingly, he's down 6 as well to 18th position out on track. So see exactly how these drivers are playing things, maybe just awaiting the inevitable big crash. Although having said that, plenty of room being given here, not as much 3-wide activities as one might have suspected. I have a feeling, though, as we get towards the white flag dropping and towards that checkered flag, it's just going to get that much more interesting.
Yeah, at least so far we've seen not really a pack race, but more of a draft race, Arjuna, where the cars are drafting really well down the straights, but that aero push in the corners, it's not allowing them to really close up too close to the cars in front. They are a little bit packed up at the front, but the further you go back, the dirtier the air is and the more spread out they are. But I will definitely echo you. Going back to your biggest movers, Joe Branch has been very impressive so far in this race. He's got a really strong car. He's on a smaller team compared to some of these other teams, so his qualifying setups aren't necessarily as good as the top teams are, but his race setups are often on point, and he's showing a really good car so far today. So really good job from him.
And finding speed in qualifying is an art unto itself. I mean, recently it's somewhat gotten a little bit more normal in some ways. If you talk to a lot of the community, the things that you did to the car, even 2 years ago in iRacing Indy 500 qualifying to make it go fast would befuddle, shock, and maybe destroy a couple of real-life engineers with some of the principles that you would do there. But as of late, those boxes have changed where you look to try and find speed. So as a result, things have just become a little bit different. We've seen the order shake up just that little bit as well. For example, in the ISOWC in the road courses, Valtteri Alander, the magician on tires, it seems, because he was able to make the black primary tires work almost as well in terms of outright pace as compared to the red mark alternate tires, while still having no pace drop-off on the reds. It was remarkable and just shows how interesting things are here on iRacing. Still out front, it's Powerslide and i5G through the top 7. Adam Crane, the first non of those two teams out front. He's got Marco Brazil trying to follow him through, but still, this battle between Christian Steele and Marco Brazil continues to go on. As the tires wear off, Andrew, where do you want to be placing your car?
You basically want to be placing your car where the car in front of you isn't, where you aren't getting into the aero trouble. Sometimes that means having to go down and pick the bottom line. Sometimes it's running the middle, and sometimes it's running the high line. And sometimes it's just backing up the corner and having that nice late apex so that you can go across the wake of the car in front of you and spend as little time in that wake as possible. So there's a number of different things that you can do. You also have the tools that you can adjust to maybe mitigate some of that as the run goes on, but there's only so much those tools can do. A lot of it is in the driver's hands of picking the best lines through each and every corner.
And going back to something you had said earlier, this is not a true pack race in the sense of some of the other races that we've seen. There's more separation between various cars. But to the previous point you had just made, when you're finding the clean air, it makes it that much easier to try and run a different line because you're not as close to some of the cars in front of you. We've seen, for example, in some of the other races we've covered in this IR18 over the course of 2021, cars packed up so close together that even when you're side by side with someone, you're still nose to tail with someone else. So finding the clean air here a little bit easier than it has been in recent memories in some of the other races, but by no means is it a simple task. Christopher Merritt around the outside line trying to steal third away from Alexander Van der Sat, who is holding firm on the low line. And what we're seeing is confirmation, Andrew, that the low line is not necessarily the place to be because no one has really been able to make too many passes work unless the car on the outside has issues. They're also not really able to maintain the momentum. They need to be able to sweep from the outside to the inside and back to the outside through the course of the corner.
That word you used there is so key, Arjuna, momentum. That's exactly what you need to be working to preserve around a track like Michigan in a race like this. Because you can get such a big run, it's often the case that when you get to the corner and you try to make the pass, you don't quite get it completed, and then you lose all of that momentum again, and then it's then you find yourself going backwards through the field again, and you have to basically reset and do it all over again. So the most success that you're going to have today from these drivers is the drivers who can find a way to find the right lines to keep up the momentum through the corners and allow themselves to really use not just one corner momentum for one corner, but multiple corners at a time and string those corners together.
And kind of going with that, it's the drivers that will be on top of their tools, right? Because what you need in terms of your anti-roll bars and weight jack on the low line is very different to what you need on the outside. And making that one brief lapse in judgment of not adjusting the tools at the right time could mean the start of the big incident that we're still kind of biting our breaths and waiting for. As 3 wide, look at this!
3 wide for the lead with Adam Blocker also looking towards the low side. i5G going up to the middle of the track. It does really seem like Powerslide is the only team that can really stay on that low side this late into the run. That being said, i5G's really making that middle line work for them really, really well so far, and it's not allowing the power slide duo of Van de Sant and Blocker to really get any momentum and really any positioning on them. That middle line, it's just covering off both sides of the track, and it's not giving any other team and any other drivers anywhere to go here, Arjuna.
Look at Jacob Oster rolling up to the high side as he passed both Van de Sant and Trainer, trying to cut the momentum, feed some dirty air to Van de Sant, who responds by ducking low to the inside of the king of the brick. Van de Sant to the race lead as we start to get closer and closer to green flag pit stops. This is going to be an interesting phase of the race because you can see there's the pit entry to the right-hand side where the white line pulls off to the right side, left side I should say technically of the track, right side of the screen, working your way off the banking onto the brakes with minimal downforce. We're going to see how tricky that truly will be. Christian Steele, by the way, has displaced Adam Crane from 8th position, so he's now made it 5 of the i5G machines in that top 8. He's now working side by side with his teammate just behind. 3 wide seems to be normal now these last couple of laps.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. What they've been doing at the front of the field is they haven't been doing a traditional swap draft. They've almost been doing a triple swap draft where the car in 3rd place tends to like to take the lead. The car in 2nd place will try to pass the 1st place car, and the 1st place car finds themselves either in 2nd or 3rd. So it's been really fascinating to watch all 3 of these drivers really going at each other, with Adam Blocker now looking to assert himself into this race and maybe disrupt what's been going on with those 2 i5G cars at the front.
Manages to get past Brandon Traino. New colors for Traino, black and a red with the dash of white. You've got Robert Malechka III coming up behind on the outside as well. Now 3 power slide cars inside the top 4. Can they swarm Jacob Oster late in the first cycle of the race? Jacob Oster leads the way from Van de Sant, Blocker, Malechka, Traino, Demerit, Steele, Crane, Lichtenberg, and Marco Brazil through the top 10. Jason Brophy has actually worked himself up into 11th, almost double-digit gains for Jason Brophy, working on the West Coast. Late commitment from him to be able to join this race, but what a drive it's been so far. Last time we saw Jason Brophy here on a Monday night, he was winning the last race that we covered at the Tricky Triangle, Pocono Raceway. Lots of work for him to do yet, but victory still on the cards. Oster gets shuffled back now to 4th position. He might still be able to hold on to the podium. He's got Malechka to the inside as Traino looks for a way through as well.
Really fast and furious action here, and I believe we also have Arjuna. Our first pit stops are coming up right now, so it looks like the strategy here is going to start playing out very, very quickly here.
AJ Musselman has come down onto pit lane, about 9 seconds in the box. Andrew Wood comes down this time around, so there's a couple of cars already having blinked. Who will be down this time? Communication will be vital. Traino steals 3rd away, looks for 2nd. Momentum on his side, to the inside he goes. 3 wide for the lead once more. i5G sandwiched by 2 power slide drivers. Will Malechka be down onto pit road this time around because he's washing up the track? He'll lose the race lead, but no pit takers in the top 10 just yet. Looks like Joe Branch, the next car that will dive down onto pit lane.
It can be so important to go just those few extra laps because it all pays off at the end of the race. Remember that these are not going to be equal stints here. We're already working lap 38, 33, 34 lap stint would have been an equal distance stint. So basically what you're looking at is all these drivers who are going laps further and further than lap 33. They're trying to shave off enough time at the end to have a shorter stop, as we see Van de Sant and who was that? Looked like Lichtenberg coming in really, really hot there.
I think it was Jacob Oster locked up the left front in the green and gold. Marco Brazil, Matt Holliber following them down to 4 cars pitting on lap 38, the conclusion of lap 38. Here comes Adam Blocker to the inside of Brandon Traino. If Traino wants to pit this time around, he's not in a great position, but neither is Robert Malechka III. Traino's coming down, I think, this time around as he commits to pit road. Blocker, Malechka, Lichtenberg, Steele, Crane, and Jason Brophy all going 1 lap longer. Brandon Traino gets followed into pit lane by Andrew Marquez as Alexander Van de Sant has actually jumped the likes of Marco Brazil to the tune of about 3.5 seconds. He's also going to have some draft to build up the speed, and Marco Brazil has had a trip through the grass, and that is our first caution of the race, and at a crucial time, because 13 cars, or I should say 11 cars, hadn't come down on pit road, 13 still on the leading lap, and that is going to shake things up.
That is absolutely going to shake things up. I want to see here, did Malechka and Blocker beat back some of those potential lap cars back to the line, or did they let them get in? So it does look like the likes of Brandon Traino was able to make it back out in time to be on the lead lap. So it should be Brandon Traino recycling back up to the front here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. No, he is the only car from the cars that have actually stopped in the box to be on the lead lap. Andrew Marquez was on pit lane but ended up rolling through without stopping, I think to try and preserve his track position. Van der Sant, Branch, Wood, Hollabo, Oster, Musselman all getting trapped one lap down. That might be crucial. We will see exactly how it will cycle out. Let's go ahead and, if we can, pick up what happened here to Marco Brazil. Working off a pit lane into the grass, and wow, almost takes out Jacob Oster there.
Yeah, one of the things at Michigan is it's a very narrow pit exit. You basically have one lane here on the pit apron, and it looks like Marco Brazil, he gets a little bit too much throttle in there, and then as soon as he hits the gas with his left front tire, the car just spins right around on him. The grass was almost no grip, and you basically just become a passenger at that point. Fortunately, no one else involved in this. Very, very close there for Jacob Oster. Barely gets through, but nice avoiding job, and he doesn't get a penalty for going over the white line either, so gets away with one there, but unfortunate incident there, and ill-timed caution for some of these drivers here, unfortunately.
Race off of pit road as Brandon Traino will take back the race lead. Robert Malechka III beats out Demerit, Blocker, Crane, Steele, and Lichtenberg inside of the top 7. Jesper Orman will cycle to 8th, Andreas Eich up to 9th, Alexis Newsom will be up into 10th position, and now the question really becomes, did everyone else, will they cycle back to the tail end of the field? It looks like Van der Sant, Branch, Wood, Hollabo, Oster, and Musselman will indeed be able to cycle back to the rear end of the queue. They'll be on the lead lap, but they have a lot of work to do to fight their way through to the front. Knowing what we've seen from Alexander Van der Sant, though, Andrew, I wouldn't be totally shocked to see him fighting for the race victory in 50-odd laps time.
Having worked with Alex really closely at Auto Club just a couple of weeks ago in the Lionheart Series, I know just how strong Van der Sant is on tracks like this, so I don't expect these 10 cars to really pose that big of an issue for Van der Sant. The bigger issue, though, is figuring out a way for him to avoid this happening in about 35 laps time, because the reason that the likes of Blocker and Malechka were able to get out in front and just go those few laps longer and consequently have this track position now is because they were sitting back in the draft saving fuel while Traino, Oster, and Van der Sant were all battling at the front of the field and swapping the lead. So that strategy of being patient has really paid off for a number of these drivers, and it does mean that there is a hill to climb for a number of other drivers.
And from this point forward, if we go green to the end, it really is the definition of a splash and dash to get to the end of this race. The reality is, though, Andrew, you're still going to end up taking tires in that final pit cycle of the race, because the way that the tires wear out at this sort of a speed means you'd be a sitting duck in effect if you didn't take the tires.
You absolutely have to take tires, and the other thing is, it'll be very interesting to see what the timing of these next pit stops will be, because again, it'll be a roughly 30 laps would be the middle of this next stint, just under 30 laps. So that is enough that they could potentially extend all the way till about 20 to go here, or they could come back as far as 20 laps from now and try and use the draft to get position that way. So it'll be very interesting to see if there's going to be some varying strategies as we go look to go green.
And drama, Brandon Traino seems to be having some technical issues. Race winner 7 days ago and it looks like Brandon Traino is out of tonight's race. Malechka III then will lead us back to the green flag. First caution in the books, and a bit of a chaos there on the start as Christopher Demerit almost runs into the back of the Powerslide Motorsports driver. Gonna really cause all sorts of chaos. Christian Steele to the inside, now up to second. Adam Crane around the outside of Adam Blocker. That wasn't the most coordinated of restarts.
No, and it's a really unfortunate situation that Robert Malechka found himself in there because Brandon Traino did blink out there, but we haven't actually received confirmation that he's actually dropped from the server yet. So it's a touchy thing if he were to suddenly reappear and Malechka just happened to be going and Traino didn't. Suddenly they could have found themselves warped inside of each other's cars. So I don't blame Malechka for being a little bit hesitant on that start, but it has given the i5G team a little bit of an advantage here, especially as we see Demerit and Steele had an absolutely amazing start there, making up 3 or 4 positions just in the turn 1 alone.
3 abreast into turn 3. Jason Brophy splits the middle, manages to work past Alexis Newsom and Jesper Orman, who might have clouded himself into the wall. He's all the way down in 17th position. Alexander Van der Sant already almost back up into the top 10 positions as we work ourselves towards the halfway marker of this race. Chaotic restart to say the least, and it's getting feisty out front. Andreas Like has been nowhere in the early stages of the race, finds himself now in 4th, has passed Adam Blocker, who wants that position back.
Adam Blocker looking to the inside where the Powerslide car has really seemed very strong here today. He does manage to clear Andreas Ike and Adam Crane, but they are both looking to take the battle back to the Powerslide driver now. Blocker is going along here behind Steele, and he's really hoping, I think, to find a nice place to sort of settle down a little bit. Now that Brandon Traino is out of the race, Blocker's got to be thinking, at least with one eye on the championship right now. Traino has, in fact, dropped from the server now, so it'll be interesting to see if he tries to reconnect and gain a few more points or if he's done for the evening. But right now, this race so far, if Blocker can keep himself in position where he is right now, is a massive swing in the points towards the favor of Adam Blocker.
It was 3 wide with Brendan Lichtenberg, Andreas Ike, and Jason Brophy. Brophy wins out in that battle as he's now up into the top 5, plus 15 from where he started. Alexander Van der Sant wants to join the party as well, working his way up through the field after being cycled to the tail end, caught out with the timing of the one and only caution that we've seen so far. Top 5, Robert Malechka III, Christopher Demerit, Christian Steele, Adam Blocker, and Jason Brophy with 48 laps in the book. Still plenty of racing still to go. Question will be, does Brandon Traino try and fight his way back and recover some points? The reality is he's 5 laps down off the leaders. He is well and truly out of any sort of good finish in this race. He's going to have to hope that there is a race later in the week that can give him some valuable championship points. Otherwise, he will already be looking at this being one of the drop weeks that he will have. Because, of course, Andrew, for those new to iRacing, 12 championship weeks, but not all 12 weeks will count towards the final standings.
Your best 8 results count, and the best driver over those 8 weeks will be your champion for this year. But one thing to keep in mind with both Brandon Traino and Adam Blocker is they both have real-world commitments in motorsports that may make them miss races further on in this season. So depending on what the real-world testing schedule looks like for both NASCAR and IndyCar, having a drop this early for Brandon Traino is really, really not what he's looking for out of this race here today.
Especially when both drivers will miss next week's race in Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. Might have been a rather good point stake, given that it's a popular road course. We'll see some road ringers, as it were, come and join the party. Not going to be the case this time around. Demerit, though, leads, but 4 car lengths clear of Malechka and Brophy. Malechka slides up the track, got spooked a little bit by Jason Brophy, who has gone from the tail end of the field up in towards 2nd position. Now fighting for the race lead. He'll look to the inside. Van der Sant behind also does the same. Brophy, new race leader, and Alexander Van der Sant, after starting or restarting this race outside of the top 15, finds himself in the top 5.
Yeah, we knew that Van de Sant was going to be fast and looking to go towards the front, but I don't think anyone quite saw just how strong Jason Brophy would be here in this mid-race stint. He's really put that team talent and private label team hype car really close to the front of this, or really strong at the front of this field, and he took that first place with authority. But Van de Sant not letting him get away. He now moved from about fourth place to first in the space of a straightaway. Alex Van de Sant now in the lead of this race.
Going back to what you said just before the caution came to a close, though, is this where Van de Sant really wants to be? Knowing that he's already slightly behind on the fuel strategy, knowing that we've got one more pit cycle to go, maybe the smart call would be for Van de Sant to hang back here, sit maybe in second, third, or fourth position, and save a little bit of fuel. But he's not content to do that. He's not content to ride around in second and third in one of those alternate fuel maps. Back to the front goes Alexander Van de Sant.
And I think this could be a little bit of a strategy play from the power slide trio. You look at Adam Blocker and Robert Malechka sitting in fourth and fifth right now. They're much more in that sit and wait and fuel save mode. And to be fair, they went longer. I think that Van de Sant is sort of covering them off on the other strategy for Powerside Motorsports. He's going on the push as hard as you can now and try and maybe hit a little bit earlier and hope that a caution doesn't come out, because the one thing that we did see from Van de Sant is when you come out from a pit stop, you'll be right in the draft. So if he can take advantage of the fresh tires and the draft, he might be able to sneak a win away from some of these drivers who won't have that same type of advantage when they pit a few laps later.
And don't forget, Van de Sant is up there in the points with only 1 week done, yes, but we know that he's increasing his pace on the road courses. He's an ace when it comes to the ovals. Might he be an outside favorite for the championship? With still 2 full months to go. Brophy in second. Looks okay right now. Plus 18 from where he qualified. Remarkable drive from him. Really has used this restart to find some positions and worked his way up through the field. Malechka the third to the inside of Christopher Demerit in the blue and white. Nothing doing just there. Christian Steele now looking to try and get a move done on Adam Blocker. And if you're Adam Blocker, you mentioned it earlier, he knows that points are on the line, championship points are on the line. Smart thing would be to do to maximize the day that he can have here. But the reality is, even though this is one of the strongest fields that we've had in recent memory on a Monday night, you don't get as many points for finishing fifth as you do for finishing first.
That's very true, Arjuna, but you brought up that Lionheart race at Michigan earlier on in this race, and that, I think, is a blueprint for what Adam Blocker is doing in this race as well. In that race in particular, Adam was about where he was right now. He was in the back half of the top 5 to even sliding further down towards the end of the top 10. But when it matters, oh my, as we see Andreas Eick almost lose it after hitting the apron there. Nice save, really fast hands from Andreas Eick. Ooh, that was a very close one.
He has just not looked comfortable since start of this race, and well, another moment for him there. I think there may have been a moment earlier on because he slid even further back since the last time that we checked in with him midway through this restarted stint of this race, and you can see 3 wide it was across of the start finish line. Loses out to Matt Holloway, will lose out to Andrew Wood as well. The muscle man will try and power his way around the outside line, and just watch here, watch what happens as he tries to hug it low. Maybe the weight jacker not in the right position. Good job to lock that car down, and a good job from everyone behind to make sure they don't run into him as well.
Yeah, Andreas was taking a little bit of a strange line through turn 1, Arjuna. You saw he was entering far lower than any other driver. He was probably right even below where Brophy's entering the corner now. And so when you do that, you have to put a lot of wheel into the car to make the car turn. And he saw that he just, I think, put in a combination of too much weight jacker and too much wheel in the car. And when the front end really bit, that's what caused the car to really pitch sideways there. And he did a really good job saving it. But I think it was a combination of just maybe a little bit of a wrong line with the wrong weight jacker setting. Nearly caught out Andreas Eick there.
And yes, now you do have those adjustments in the fixed setup competition as well, those ARB and weight jacker changes, but You build your car to allow for certain changes. As Joe Branch gets pinched down low, Jacob Oster uses that momentum in the green and gold to work his way past. Branch might still get a move, though, done on Christian Steele, who had a bit of a moment of his own coming through the mid part of turns 1 and 2. And Branch will power around the outside and try and hold on to that position, at least for now. But that's where, going back to what I was saying, you build your setup to allow for certain modifications, Andrew, because the weight jacker doesn't just move the weight of the car, but it will change the ride heights of the car as well. So if you haven't built in adjustments, you may end up with the car hitting the floor if you adjust it too far.
Or in the other scenario, you can also lose some of the aero from the underbody by raising the rear of the car up too much. So what can happen is if your car is pushing a lot through the center of the corner and you put in more and more weight jacker, then suddenly the car is raised up, because the way that it works is basically there's a ram that forces more weight onto the rear by basically raising the right rear of the car up. So you can actually raise the right rear up past the point where it's efficient in the rear aero and actually make the car lose even more rear downforce, and you actually make the car handle worse simply by losing all the downforce off that rear underbody bit from your weight jacker adjustment. So there's a lot to keep in mind when you're building a setup for an oval here. It really is an art to make these cars work as well as these drivers and these teams have done here today.
You're meant to say that building setups is easy, Andrew.
No, as the Lionheart setup builder, I do have to say that it is the most difficult position in if only in order to keep my job in the Lionheart series.
Well, no, yeah, no, that's true, and I think as well that the IndyCar has a lot more setup options than even some comparable open wheel cars have. The new Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One car has quite a limited setup scope when you really think about it, but that kind of goes hand in hand with the reality that often setups for a Formula One car are almost locked after preseason testing. There's very little things that actually you change week to week as compared to what you might think at the elite level of global motorsport. That testing preseason really does drive the direction that you'll go through the entirety of the season, and that's why, even with only a couple of days, we're down to less than 10 days now in that preseason testing, it really does come into play. Van der Sat to the lead, and a reminder as well as we work our way through the halfway marker of the second stint of the race. Van der Sat is at the fuel disadvantage, and he still continues to run around at the front. And I know you said that he's maybe doing something slightly different from his Power Slide teammates, Andrew. The longer we go without a caution coming into play, because from here, if the caution came out, you'd pit and go to the end. I think Van der Sat is starting to look like he's on the wrong side of the strategy lottery.
I think it all comes down to if there is another caution, Arjuna. If there's a caution in between when Van der Sat pits and when the rest of the field pits, then he's on the wrong side of the lottery. But you see how much the back half of the top 10 and the top 15 especially are starting to string out here. That's to Alexander Van der Sat's advantage if he can come out and have 3 or 4 laps of just simply running on fresh tires in the draft and basically doing almost like a hopscotch up through the field using the draft cars. That can really get him potentially out of draft range out of all of these other drivers after he comes into the pit stop. So there is a way for this to work for him, but it's got to work perfectly in order for him to come home with this victory, I think.
Well, we'll find out soon enough, because we are coming to, give or take, 30 laps to go here. Bonnie the Flagman has a great view of all the action, and he really hasn't been called into play too much so far. Fingers crossed that it will stay as is. Looks like Jesper Orman is starting to fall off the back, and he might even be coming down to pit road, so I wonder if he smacked the wall one more time. And Julius Ike is also falling off the pack, 2 seconds back from Marco Brazil. The top 17 separated by 4 seconds. 2 cars looking like it may be day done for them, including the 2 already having retired from today's race. News that came out today, talking of Barney the Flagman, Andrew, was that IndyCar in 2022 will have a new automated flag system across of the entirety of the year, and that's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out, because it also does change the way that the local marshals are going to be used, because of course you used to have them in pairs, one on the radio, one with the flag in their hand. Now they've got a little bit more autonomy. They're also going to have less autonomy in some ways, because the race control director is going to be able to directly use those symbols around the track to tell the drivers. The thing that I love the most, though, is that we've got more flexibility now with the flags, right? Because when you're driving at speed, yes, these drivers are, you know, at the top of their level and they've been around this world for long enough, but the reality is flags, different flags and whatnot, and how they're waved can be quite difficult to pick out. Now that we've got the screens, there's less ambiguity, a little bit more of a chance for different things to go on. There was even rumors that IndyCar has been trialing potentially a virtual safety car to be brought into the mix.
Yeah, and another thing with that is not just the aspect of race control having a little bit more control, but also that when the individual flag stations and marshals push the button and actually make those local yellows happen, the drivers will be able to know much quicker, because when you think about it, the marshals will currently have to take up the flag, raise it, unfurl it, and start waving it. Now all they have to do is press a button and the screen will show them exactly what they needed to that split second sooner. And how many times have we seen in the real world, Arjuna, where a third or fourth driver becomes involved in an incident just because they maybe didn't know on the exit of a blind corner on a street circuit that corner was going under yellow, simply because the marshal physically could not get the yellow flag out soon enough to warn them.
Really like the direction it's going. Technology can really play such a big part in not just the safety for races, but also changing the way that we view racing and a lot of the systems behind the scenes. For example, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which I just covered a 24-hour race this past weekend. For the longest time, the race control didn't even have full camera visibility over the entirety of the circuit, given that, you know, it's 25 kilometers in length, 170 odd corners. Recent years, technology has changed that. It also means you get onboard cameras that actually work across the entire circuit that can be beamed back to the production truck to clue us in on everything that's happening. So technology is great and changing the way that racing works. On to pit road, though. Here comes Joe Branch. He is the first to blink. We're coming to 25 laps to go, but he has come in by himself, and he might end up cycling behind all of the cars on the lead lap. That is not ideal when it comes to the strategy of building up your speed again.
Not ideal, but again, if Joe Branch could come out in the pack, at least to a certain extent, this can be advantageous for him. If he's able to stay in the draft somewhere within this leading pack, because we have seen the pack has stretched out just a little bit. Marco Brazil, sort of the last car really inside that lead pack, almost 5 seconds back of the leader now. So there is a much wider window for Branch to come out in. And you can see he's actually coming in right near the end of that pack, probably right around that Andrew Marquez, Matt Hollabaugh sort of area. So this is exactly where Branch needs to be, and if he can use the draft now, this is going to propel him forward as the pit cycle comes down. The trick will be whether he's able to hold those positions when the tires start to go off, because his tires will go off quicker.
The muscle man has also come down onto pit road for his final time today. So 2 cars in the danger zone as Adam Crane has slammed into the inside wall and brings out the caution for the second time today. That will put to bed the hopes of a second cycle of green flag stops. And for Joe Branch and AJ Musselman, well, their trips to pit road could not be timed any worse than that. Straight to the RaceSpotTV replay, and just watch here, a mirror incident of what we saw with Brian Spott, and that is an almighty crunch into the wall at terrifying speed.
Just a massive impact. You know, that reminds me of the incidents that we saw in 1999 with Richie Hearn and of course the late Greg Moore in his fatal crash, where it snaps to the inside and there's almost no speed abatement for Adam Crane as he hits the inside wall. Fortunately, of course, these are virtual cars, so no threat of bodily harm for any of the drivers here today. But I will say, Arjuna, you mentioned that Joe Branch and AJ Musselman are the losers in this cycle. The winner, Alexander Van de Sant, in second place, now is back on strategy with everyone else.
Yeah, no, that's true, and we'll see them onto pit road this time around. So it should be probably a 20-lap shootout. Again, not a full tank of fuel, but we will 100% see tires being fitted to these cars because the pace has already dropped off about 1 second, 1.5 seconds. So they will all be in the pit lane for almost an identical amount of time. There shouldn't be too much of a switch around in terms of the running order as they make their way down on towards pit road for the final time today. This is the money stop. You cannot afford to slide through your box. Hitting your marks has never been so important. Jason Brophy, the first to roll. Where is he going to come out, though, in comparison to Alexander Van de Sant? Van de Sant a nose in front. He'll win the race off of pit road. Jason Brophy second. Christopher Demerit third. Malechka the third in fourth. Adam Blocker, Christian Steele, Andrew Wood, Alexis Newsom, Jacob Oster, and Matt Hollabo through the top 10.
Nice pit cycle from all the drivers. Alexander Van de Sant doing a great job to get off the lane first there. Very important, I think, for Van de Sant to take the lead here. But I'm going back to the surprise of this race so far, I think, has been just how strong Jason Brophy has been in this last bit of the race. And I think that we haven't seen quite how strong he is. It really looks like his car has enough to take it to the trio of I5G and the trio of the power slide cars. So we should see a really strong battle to the end of this race. Another driver to look out for is Alexis Newsom cycling through. She's done a really fine job. Dropped off a little bit early, but she's worked her way back up now, right back up into this pack as well.
And from here, I mean, you had mentioned that the power slide drivers look the best on the long run, being able to run multiple lines across of the surface of the track. With a shorter run, the long run car becomes less important. And so I really think, given what we've seen so far, given that so many of these drivers have looked great in terms of the short run speed, the ability to make moves early on and even midway through the stint right now, it is anyone's game. Van de Sant, Brophy, Demerit, the top three. I have no idea who's going to come out on top, and don't discount the idea of getting maybe one or two more cautions to interfere with a run and a dash to the checkered flag.
All bets are off once these cautions come out, especially when you're under 20 laps to go come the green flag. I think that these drivers who have been working so well together, I think that probably ends in the next lap or two, Arjuna. I think that we're going to see some fireworks here very shortly, and it very well could end in tears.
And it will be a 20-lap sprint to the checkered flag from here. Our second caution of the night being brought out by another solo car incident. Somewhat surprising that it did trigger the caution, given that we saw a very similar incident for Brian Spots earlier in the race down the track in towards turn number 2, but the force of the impact, the fact that Adam Crane slid back up towards the bottom of the back straightaway just that little bit further, triggered a cycle of pit stops under caution, and it's meant that everyone is good on fuel from here to the end. Alexander Van de Sant in control of the field. We get back to the green flag racing, 20 laps to go. Van de Sant from Brophy, from Demerit, from Malechka, with Adam Blocker rounding out the top 5. Much more coordinated on the start this time around. Not as crazy. The craziness will build.
Absolutely. The cars got much more strung out. Van de Sant went very early, so the cars have a lot of space in between them. But what does that mean, Arjuna? That means that there's a lot of draft to be had because none of these drivers have gotten anywhere close to out of draft range. So fresh tires and a lot of draft to be built up. I think that it's about to accordion back up into a pack in a big hurry here.
On board with Malechka the third, you can see Demerit gets boxed out, decides to back out of it and find that clean air on the outside of turns 1 and 2. Brophy fed that dirty air from Alexander Van de Sant within 20 laps to go with fresh tires. All bets are off. It is anyone's game to go here at the Michigan International Speedway. Adam Blocker knows valuable championship points are on the line. Could he steal another victory here in the Great Lakes State, coming to the checkered flag? And a reminder, Andrew, there's no rules about going below the white line coming to the checkered flag. It's very likely we're in for a photo finish, and a driver that dives to the bottom might be the one to emerge victorious.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this risk versus reward, because there's no rules governing going to the bottom, but there's also no rules about people letting them go down there or letting them back up into traffic. So it is a risk versus reward scenario whenever you go below that white line, because if you do, it's on you to make sure that you do it in a safe manner. So I think that what we're going to see here is, for the most part, especially at the front of this field, these drivers are experienced enough to keep it between the white lines up until probably one lap to go. And then I think all bets are going to be off, and it'll be really interesting to see who is the most aggressive as this race comes to a close. We're already seeing Adam Blocker, who had been content to sit back just a little bit. He's now making a move for the front.
Van der Sant has been boxed out and dropped to 5th. Malechka made a move for the lead, as now Jason Brophy has a brief technical issue. Van der Sant chops off the nose of Christian Steele as Christopher Demerit will look down low, followed through by Alexander Van der Sant. It is building up the intensity here, bubbling up to an incredible checkered flag opportunity and a moment here. What a strength of field it is, one of the strongest fields we've had on a Monday night in recent memory. And all the big names are out front and looking forward to having some fun. Now it's Malechka that's been shuffled backwards in the field. He's outside, I should say, of his teammate. Adam Blocker might lose the position to Christian Steele. Zigzagging back and forth is Alexander Van der Sant. And look who's coming to join the party. Andrew Wood now finds himself with a potential victory on the cards.
Jason Brophy's looking to have a teammate up there, but one person that we have barely talked about all race, Arjun, Christopher Demerit. He is one of the strongest oval drivers, not only in iRacing, but on the I5G team as well. With Brandon Trano out, Christopher Demerit undoubtedly the oval ace of the I5G team, and he is looking really, really strong at the front of this race. He's challenging Jason Brophy. Robert Malechka on the bottom. We've got 3 teams all in those top 3 positions, and none of them want to give an inch here.
14 laps to go as Demerit ducks down low, brings himself back up to the middle of a 3-wide situation. Jason Brophy gets fed that dirty air. Adam Blocker still trying to find a way forward. Alexis Newsom just gotten past by Matt Hollibuff for 9th position. He's coming on strong as well. 10 cars separated by just under 1 second. 3 cars separated by under 1/10 of a second. It could go any way. I have no idea who's going to emerge victorious here.
Impossible to predict at this point. I don't even know what team is going to emerge victorious, let alone what driver. All of these drivers are doing such a good job. They're giving each other just enough room, but they're really starting to ramp up the pressure on each other. They're making moves that they wouldn't have made earlier on the race. Look at the run of Jacob Oster on the bottom. Adam Blocker comes down. A little bit of a block there from Blocker, and all throughout that, Jason Brophy is doing a good job dictating both lines out the front, and he is really doing a great job at the front of this pack as well.
I think Adam Blocker's intention and aggression in blocking down low might cost him a whole bunch of positions, as Christian Steele will try to run him out around the outside. Jacob Oster finds that momentum once more. Steele goes Steely rocket machine mode. Down to the inside comes the number 9 machine, Jason Brophy. Still defends that middle line. He's looking comfortable there. Jason Brophy looking strong with Christian Steele sliding backwards now with that dirty air being fed towards him. Malechka the third outside of Christopher Demerit as Matt Hollibuff tries to find a pocket to run into. Demerit finally gets down low, and Jason Brophy might get pinched outside by Robert Malechka III. And really, as we come to 10 laps to go, even someone like Matt Hollibuff could still, by merit, work his way forward and win this race.
This is incredible stuff, Arjuna, that we are looking at a hornet's nest right here. And one thing I will say about this official series is oftentimes when you see action like this, it's in league races where these drivers are very familiar with each other. Some of these drivers that you're seeing here today, they haven't raced with these drivers in months, if not almost 6 months for someone like Christian Steele. So there's a little bit of an unpredictability about what everyone is doing here that's making this edge of your seat action. It's fantastic to watch as we see almost 4 wide into turn 1 here, Arjuna.
I don't think you can fit 4 cars here at the Michigan International Raceway side by side unless you are stopped. But these drivers want to prove me wrong. Well, you proved me wrong there. Must have been a scary moment as 3 wide into turn 3. Walker has found his way forward. Now stuck though on the outside line, which is I don't think where you want to be coming to the last couple of laps of this race. Demerit will lead across the stripe, 16 miles to go. Brophy still looking strong. Here comes Christian Steele with Alexander Van der Sat for company as well. My oh my, and your point about the fact that this is the type of racing that we see in leagues is not lost on me. They are almost in a formation, a flying formation, right behind the leader. They were 4 wide, almost 2 rows deep, coming through turns 1 and 2.
And the most amazing thing about all this, Arjuna, is that you have no idea what's about to happen next. Adam Blocker, not 2 laps ago, was in 8th or 9th place. In those 2 laps, he sliced his way all the way up to first. We have a caution. We have someone in the wall. That was, I believe, was Jacob Oster brushed the wall there, Arjuna.
Yes, no, I thought it was one of the i5G cars, and I'm not sure if it was a brush or if it was a slam. It was one of the two. Still at least the green and gold, not sliding too far down through the order. Malechka the third inside of Jason Brophy and Christopher Demerit. My word, if you weren't tense when we started this one, you better be tense now.
You got the Christian Horner foot tap going yet, Arjuna?
Oh, always, always.
This is incredible action. 3 wide once again into turn 1. Robert Malechka, he seems really confident on the bottom. Look at Alexander Van der Sant also coming into the picture. He had been another driver who was back in the pack not 3 laps ago. So you can see that as we come into this final few laps of the race, no one in this top 10 is out of the running for this race. But 4 wide formation once again. Man, this is some great action.
With 5 laps to go, if you had $5 you never wanted to see again, Andrew, who would you put your money down on?
I am going to go with Christopher Demerit. He has so much experience in situations like these from running so many fixed races over the years. He's an absolutely fantastic driver. He's the number 1 for a reason. I'm putting $5 on Demerit.
And remember as well, these are the oval iRatings. That's the great thing that we had introduced about 12 months ago, is that it's not run on road iRating anymore. Instead, with the 6 and 6 series, road and oval, IndyCar challenges drivers across so many different disciplines, and within each of those disciplines, sub-disciplines come into play. There is the 4 wide that we expected. It is Malechka from Brophy, from Blocker, from Demerit, who gets chopped off coming through the middle of turns 1 and 2, and my oh my, they are still managing to ratchet up the intensity in ways I didn't think possible.
It's so tight from all of these top 4 drivers. Alexander Van der Sant is just looking in the popcorn position saying, what is going on, boys? We still have 4 laps to go, coming to 3 to go now at the line. Adam Blocker really, really aggressive. He's got the gloves off. He was sitting back, not anymore. He is going for the front of this race, trying to do everything he can to prevent Christopher Demerit from getting a good run. I think he knows that Demerit is one of his main competitions here. He's got his teammate on the inside and Jason Brophy in the middle. Adam Blocker looks to go to the front here through turn 3 and 4, Arjuna. And
going back to what I said earlier, Andrew, where do you want to position your car coming to the white flag? Down low or in the middle? I think the outside line, as Adam Blocker is showing us here, is not at all where you want to be. But I'm not sure exactly if low or middle is ideal. I think the answer, Arjuna, is wherever you can get a good run off the corner. You need to be able to find a draft somewhere. The draft is so impressive here. If you can time it just right and you need to position your car just right on this backstretch, you can make the outside work, but it's got to be incredibly precise. So I think that draft is what it's going to come down to on this final lap, but it's going to be a barn burner. Why don't you take it home for us, Arjuna? 99 laps done, but it comes down to this. 2 miles left to go in round 2 of the 2022 Season 1 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. 3 wide through turn 2. Malechka has a nose in front of Jason Brophy and Christopher Demerit. Malechka's in the seat that he wants to be in, has the momentum, has the inside line, and has the lead as we dive our way into turn 3 for the final time today. Malechka III has the line, has the momentum, and will duck below the white line to bring it to the line in a photo finish, but Robert Malechka III wins in what was an absolutely outstanding, incredible, not enough superlatives to describe the race that we've just seen, because we were treated to an absolute showcase of the finest drivers and the finest racing in the iRacing IndyCar community, and 3 cars separated by 0.08 of a second at the line.
What an electric finish. What a drive that we saw from all of these drivers here today. This has been a credit to the IndyCar community, this race has been. And it's a showcase of truly what this car and what this community and what these drivers are capable of. But Robert Malechka did exactly what he needed to do. He positioned his car perfectly, kept up the momentum on the inside, and did exactly what he needed to do to just barely get enough to take the win from Jason Brophy.
One more look at this final lap of the race. It was absolutely incredible how close these drivers went amongst one another. They left themselves and each other just enough room to make it work. And it was 0.5 of a second between Malechka and Brophy at the line. Brophy, I think, lost it here when he arced up through the corner just a little bit too much, had to dive low to get the clean out, the draft from Malechka III, but to the line, it was Robert Malechka III who takes his first victory as a Powerslide Motorsports driver, and I have no doubt, Andrew, the first of many.
Incredible finish from all of these drivers. I'm as a Powerslide member, I'm so excited to see what Robert Malechka can do, but what we've seen here today is that no matter whether you're first or whether you're 10th in this race and in this championship, I think that we've got a very deep field that we're going to watch throughout the course of this season, and it's going to be some fantastic racing no matter what car, no matter what track, and no matter what drivers are involved. We've got a very deep field to watch here on Monday nights going forward.
And some well-earned donuts as Robert Malechka III burns it down here in the Great Lakes State at the Michigan International Speedway. Catch your breath and relax because, well, no more iRacing IndyCar action now for a full week's time, but what a treat it was today. Robert Malechka III victorious from Jason Brophy. What a drive from Brophy. Didn't put in a lap in qualifying, but worked his way up through the field, using that first caution of the race to be plus 18, second step of the podium for Jason Brophy. Christopher Demerit, well, he qualified up at the front, unable to make the run work when he needed it to. He finishes on the final step of the podium. Brendan Lichtenberg, Adam Blocker through the top 5. Alexander Van der Sat, back and forward for him, but resilient once more. He finishes in 6th, while Matt Hollabo, double-digit gains for him, up 10 into 7th. Christian Steele returns to IndyCar and to iRacing itself as well to finish down in 8th, while Andrew Wood, after putting in a benchmark of a qualifying time, works his way up to 9th. Andrew Marquez completes the top 10 for us, while Alexis Newsom is down in 11th. Christian Macarelli at one point actually sat up in the top 5. He finishes down in 12th, with Andreas Eick struggling to a 13th position here today. Big slide for him. Great car control on display. The Muscle Man got caught with the second caution, 1 lap down. He finishes down in 14th with Joe Branch, the other car that got caught out with that final caution of the race. Marco Brazil, always quick in qualifying, didn't have the race pace that you might have wanted to see from him. He's down in 16th with Jacob Oster, a disappointing 17th after qualifying up at the front. Jesper Orman, Adam Crane, Brandon Trano, the championship leader, looking to try and reclaim the championship that he won 12 months ago, has a technical failure that drops him out of the race. He retires along with Brian Spots, who had an early incident down at the bottom of turn number 2. Well, we are getting dialed up with post-race interviews in just a couple of moments' time. And let's drag in the man himself on the top step of the podium. It is Robert Malechka III taking his first victory as a Powerslide Motorsports driver. And Robert, How tense was that in not just the last 20 laps, but indeed across of that 100-lap race?
Yeah, the first, 80 or so laps, it was just, big fuel save. But I knew with 6 or 7 to go, I could just easily wrap the bottom. And once I found out that Jason couldn't really clear me or anything like that, I think I said it with 4 to go. The race is a wrap. So, yeah, I'll take the win, first one with Power Slide, and we'll see if we make it 2 in a row next week.
Talk to us, though, about how close you guys were running each other. I mean, this is the type of racing that is often reserved for league racing, but we saw it on display in official competition. It was the best of the best in the iRacing IndyCar community, and you guys really put on a show for us here tonight.
Yeah, I hope it, looked great on the RaceSpot broadcast, but, yeah, I think those last 5 laps, every time in the turn 1, either Alex or Adam were saying 4 wide, so, yeah, it was tense. Probably the easiest part for me, or of the 4 wide. But yeah, like I said, I'll take the one.
What happened then in the couple of moments where you were trying to position the car? You mentioned that you wanted to be low, but one thing we had kind of heard from drivers in the build-up to this was the grip on the bottom wasn't as necessarily there. It was relatively warm in terms of track temperature, a decent amount of wind as well. Were you always thinking that you wanted to position yourself down low coming into those final laps of the race?
Yeah, so throughout practice, I knew I could make it last on the bottom, just, white lining it for 7, 8 laps. I went a little early. I wish I could have went with like 5 or 6 to go, just so I had some tire to lean on. But I think I went with 7 to go, and it worked out. I was getting pretty loose down there. If it was 2 more laps longer, I don't think I could have held on.
Well, that's the insight that we love to hear. So good to know that tires are really a factor here in this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Congratulations on the win, Robert, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you in 7 days' time from Spa, which is bound to be an exciting race.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
So that was race winner Robert Malechka III, and now joined by someone I didn't necessarily know if we were going to see here today, but late call to join the race for Jason Brophy. And what a drive that was, Jason. Congratulations on second.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a rough one, especially that first half, because I had no weight jacker. I had to click and stuff, so it wasn't a pleasant run that first time. Then we had that caution that let me get in there and set up the weight jacker button, even though I lost some spots. So helped a lot. I could drive my way back up through there. I felt the car was pretty good. I was happy with the performance, but Robert did a great job to hold his line that bottom. I don't think I could have done that. It was great racing with Rob, Blocker, Demerit, Van de Sant. We switched for a long time there. So, it was a lot of fun at the front of the field. Glad I could rally from no qualifying set and, no weight jacker.
Yeah, that explains the 15-second pit stop, which is going to be my next question. So we'll forego that and ask you about being back on a Monday. I mean, the last time that we saw you here on RaceSpot on Mondays was Pocono to close out the Season 3 coverage in 2021, which you did take victory in. Brandon Traynor maybe did the reverse commentator's curse there for you. We're not going to see you much, I guess, over the next couple of Mondays, but what else is in store? Of course, we're in the holidays now. Lionheart doesn't get back underway for until March next year. What's on the agenda for you in terms of sim racing?
Mostly Indy Elite. I'll run the private label team hype car there. And then I've got the Coke Series. I crew chief there. That'll be starting up. We'll start our testing here soon enough. So, but I can't do Mondays most of the time. I forced it today for reasons but so I make them when I can. I guess I should probably say it's just not the same without RaceSpot. So I came back in your first race back.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we're glad to have you, and you guys really put on a show. Talk to us about how close this race was as well, because official racing doesn't usually get this feisty, I like to think, because of how the reality of the laws of physics work and the speed of light. But 4 wide on numerous occasions, lots of chopping and changing between the drivers. Given that this was an open race, one of the strongest fields that we've seen in a long, long time, the amount of respect that was on display as well was a really good, showcase for all of you guys and for those watching.
Yeah, we all know each other. We've all raced each other. This is a crazy style of racing. I think you saw a lot of people take it pretty easy for those first 80 laps, but once the caution came out, that means we're going. I mean, I knew it was going to be insane from then on out, and so I just did my best, especially being my teammates were kind of stuck back a little bit. I was running a different setup, and they, I had to pick whoever was near me that wouldn't strand me, because I had the power slide teammates. I5G got up there with a couple at one point, bad for Trano that he got throughput, but it helped me at least be able to use demerit a little bit. But we all respect each other for the most part, and so it let us run real close to each other. And if netcode, if that took over, and it didn't. You saw it was great. Everybody ran close, and there was no real issue. So
we all respect each other until it's the month of May when the gloves come off. I think that's for sure. Congratulations, Jason. Hopefully not the last time that we see you this season, but if it is, congratulations on second, and best of luck for all your future sim racing endeavors in the next couple of months. So that was Jason Brophy, the driver for private label Team Hype, and now we're joined by Christopher Demerit, who returns to a Monday night not for fixed setup racing, but instead for open setup racing. And Christopher, what an insane race. Talk to us first about that qualifying for your team. Locking out the front couple of rows really looked like you guys had that car dialed in for qualifying.
Yeah, we definitely, Trano, I should specifically call it Trano. Trano really qualified our qualifying early.
He qualified for all of you, huh?
Yeah, he jumped from car to car. We put the special fuel in, and he just drove it around. Now, Trano did an awesome job with the Q car. Not that it mattered too much because it's a pack race, but it's still nice to start 1 through 4. It helps us control it a little bit at the beginning. Blocker still got up to the front in like 10 laps or something, so it didn't matter too much. But it's better than starting at the back, I'll tell you that. So it was a good way to start the race at least.
It was the least pack race though. Pack race, if you want to call it that way, because you guys weren't completely nose to tail. As Andrew put it, it was more of a draft race than a pack race. What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's probably pretty fair. I guess if you think of Talladega as like a pack race, I guess this is more of a draft race, but as you saw, like the leader only has to just hold the white line around at the bottom, and throughout most of the race, P3 can kind of get to the front whenever he wants to. So it's a lot about there's chess moves of figuring out where you want to be at when and who's going to make what kind of moves, and just hope it works out. Really, you got to get lucky.
No, I think that's fair. We delighted to have you back, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to throw you under the bus. Are you going to be back on Monday, or are you going to slum it back to fix it for the rest of this season?
I'm planning on doing the ovals.
So you're going to slum it back for next week, is what you're saying?
No, I won't be here next week.
Well, I tell you what, it's Spa-Francorchamps.
Is next week an oval?
No, it's not.
Okay. I was pretty sure it wasn't missing an oval, so I won't be there. I'll be on vacation, so.
Oh, that's true. It will be. So happy holidays to you and yours, and hopefully we'll see you then in a couple of weeks' time when I think we go to Iowa.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays. That was Christopher Demerit to round out our post-race interviews and our post-race coverage. But before we wrap things up, Andrew, one more look at the schedule before we say goodbye. 2 races done, and 2 absolute barn burners. Road America saw Brandon Trano and Adam Blocker duking it out wheel to wheel over 4-5 laps before Brandon Trano came out on top. Race 2 saw about 10 different cars lead at one point or another, but Brandon Trano was able to hold on to Robert Malechka III was able to hold on to victory here, while Brandon Trano's technical issues have meant that this is likely to be one of his drop weeks, and with next week being right after Christmas, it's likely going to be another drop week for many of our competitors. But with that said, next week takes us to the fearsome, to the ferocious Spa-Francorchamps. Tires were important today, but tires are equally important at this track, which will burn through the rubber. And when we talk about multiple tire compounds, it is very likely that the Black Mark primary tire, harder in its compound, but wears a little bit slower, maybe doesn't have the most outright speed, that is likely to be the preferred tire.
Yeah, I think Spa is going to be an extremely interesting race to watch. I'm not only excited about the different tire strategies that are going to go on, but as you mentioned, there will probably be, because of the timing of the race in the holiday season, there's probably going to be a few regulars who aren't there. But because it's Spa, because it's such an iconic circuit that so many drivers on this sim really enjoy. I think we'll also find a few names that we don't normally see in an IndyCar maybe making a little bit of a moonlight appearance in the strength of field on Monday night next week. So it'll be interesting to see if one of the newcomers potentially could come in and take a win, or whether it'll be a veteran coming in over Christmas break to assert their name on the SPA trophy.
That's what we love about these sort of venues that we don't visit all the time. It's the fact that just like when we go to the Nordschleife, which will be up on the agenda for Season 2 in about 8 weeks' time when the schedule for next season gets confirmed, it's the fact that it brings in new faces into our community that we get to display here on RaceSpotTV. But for now, for another Monday night, it is time to say goodbye here from the virtual Michigan International Speedway with Round 2 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Series 2022 Season 1 in the books. Does seem as though Robert Malechka III will inherit the championship lead, but there is a long way to go, and you can follow along with all the upcoming races live on RaceSpotTV. Make sure to follow us across the social media, and if not already subscribed to us, hit that red button, hit the bell next to it as well to get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. You might not miss out on another great 3-wide finish. But with that said, on behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for our graphics partners at ATVO, for Dougie Beard and Istvan Ballo producing our car and track cameras for today's event, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside has been Andrew Kinsella. We'll see you then in 7 days' time. Until then, happy holidays to you and yours, and we'll see you from Spa-Francorchamps.